Hey folks, it's Matt Rainwater here, and I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a pretty great day. It's February. No, it's not February anymore. It's March, isn't it? We just had Mardi Gras here in Louisiana, and I didn't really do anything for Mardi Gras, unfortunately. I just took care of a puppy for a little bit. I was dog sitting for a week and had a daiquiri. So there's that. It's pretty good. It was just like a margarita flavor daiquiri. Lime and tequila. I also wanted to say thanks to a new Patreon contributor, Matt Smith, from one Matt to the other. Thank you, and also say thanks to Some Call Me Ozzy. They raised their pledge from $5 to $10. Thank you so much, and yeah, thanks everybody. Let's get started with doing some inking here. I'm doing inking on episode 52 of Trailer Park Warlock. Somehow I've already done 50 episodes, which is unbelievable. And yes, I'm going to say right now, no matter, I cannot, there's anything at this point is just spoilers. So there you go. Get ready. I'm gonna probably just ink 2 or 3 panels and then we'll be done for the day. All right, here we go. I'm gonna switch over into tablet mode. Whoop. Oh my goodness. And let's try and not make it too messy of a transition here. All right. So let me get my keyboard. I have a USB keyboard that I use also for using primarily. The only thing I actually use it for when I'm drawing. I use it a lot when I'm coloring though. When drawing, I use it primarily for just doing Control Z, just so I can, in case I mess up, which I did here. And I'm gonna make, oh, that brush is still too big. Okay. So what else has been going on for me, other than Mardi Gras, dog sitting, blah blah blah? Well, I have news I can't talk about that's really exciting, which is not helpful to anybody. All I can say is keep an eye on my social media. Keep an eye on Twitter. As soon as I have word that I can announce it, I will be shouting it to the high heavens. But I am starting at the beginning phases of a very exciting new project. I cannot say anything more than that. Otherwise, I have been working on Trailer Park Warlock, and it's been kind of like working, you know, plugging away at the tarot card deck. I am now, I think, yes, I'm now entering into the fives. So I finished the fours, which were kind of difficult. The fours presented a challenge. Which were the easiest ones? I would say Four Cups was pretty easy. I kind of went back and forth on whether or not I was going to do the design I ended up with. I felt concerned that it might not translate. I don't know, like people might not understand what I'm doing with it. But at the same time, because what ended up happening with the Four Cups is it's the kid, Nate, the kid in the trailer park. Um, he's just, I'm basically taking the Rider Waite design, but replacing it with Nate, and Nate's sitting there, and he's staring at like a bunch of like juice boxes and other kids' drinks. instead of like cups. You see what I did there? Yeah, I mean, basically my idea with the Trailer Park Warlock tarot card deck is two things. One, I want to take characters and story elements from Trailer Park Warlock and insert them into some of the metaphors and archetypes in the tarot. The additional aspect of that is I'm also using that as a deconstruction of symbolism in the tarot, and not all of the symbolism, but some. Like with the minor arcana, I'm definitely deconstructing the idea of like, what is a cup? What is a sword? Well, maybe not so much sword. What is a wand? What is a pentacle? And in terms of readability for the original tarot, I would say the original tarot is definitely doing something that's more, in terms of utility, is better suited for tarot readings. And my version is going to require a certain amount of interpretation, translation above what, like the Rider-Waite tarot deck might require, or the Marseille tarot? Although the Marseille tarot, from what I understand anyway, doesn't even have, like, for the minor arcana, it's literally just it's just like the pictures are, oh, here's just 8 wands, here's just 8 cups, and it doesn't have any like additional illustration to give an idea of what that's supposed to represent, which I really like about the Rider-Waite's deck. A lot of the other tarot card decks I've seen, I think that it gives a better idea of what those cards are supposed to represent in terms of ideas and archetypes and the human unconscious, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I get kind of bored saying that phrase, but there is a little bit, I mean, that is, okay. So from my perspective, that's kind of how the tarot works. If you could say, if work is the correct terminology, I'm going to say that it is. The tarot works by allowing your brain, your unconscious, to look at those symbols and reflect on them, sort of like a Rorschach test. Except that instead of like an ink blotch that could look like a butterfly or whatever, it's stories. It's little illustrated stories. It's archetypes. And despite what Joseph Campbell may think, I think differently. Basically, my major thesis here is that everybody reacts to different archetypes differently. It means something different to them. It doesn't mean the same thing across generations and race, sex, creed, etc., etc. It's very dynamic and fluid. Anyway, don't know if that's necessarily part of the Trailer Park Warlock tarot card deck, but that's just my personal opinion about the idea of archetypes in general. I could go on. I could. Maybe I should. I'll go on a little bit longer on this rant, on this tangent. So basically, like, culturally speaking, it doesn't, not every story goes the exact same way. Not the stories that different cultures share are not all the same monomyth sort of story. The archetypes take very different routes, or what is considered a hero is very different between one culture and another, and what are considered heroic traits are different from one culture to the other. This is very... Unfortunately, I don't have very good examples to go along with what I'm saying, and if I were writing a thesis paper, if I were writing a dissertation, I would have more to say on the matter, but at the moment I don't. Which is part of the reason why I was kind of wondering if I should go on. But that's the basics of what I'm trying to say there. Anyway, going back to the tarot card deck. All right, we're going to do this panel, and I think we'll call it. Basically, do I have anything more to say about the tarot card deck? Hold on, give me a second, y'all. Okay, so basically, it's a tool. It's a tool that you can use to help you sort of square your feelings away, figure out where you are mentally. Some people use meditation, some people pray, some people roll dice or consult their charts. Some people go smoke, and that helps them. Some people go smoke a lot of different things. It's a lot of different tools that people use to get their head straight and figure out like what's working for them, what's not working for them in any given situation. Actually, I bought a Rider-Waite's tarot deck probably a month ago. And I got it for multiple reasons. One reason was I wanted to have an actual deck to hold and look at while I was illustrating these cards, and to think about, how am I gonna, because here's the thing about the minor arcana. It's such a big undertaking. It's huge. It's, 52 cards? Might be more. It's a lot of cards. So I really wanted to have something to help me while I was figuring out this major project, and that's one reason. But the other reason is I was going to actually, practice using it as somebody who might buy the Trailer Park Warlock tarot deck would use it, and that's all part of the experience. And so my method's pretty basic. It's just a 3-card spread, and I'll shuffle. And while I'm shuffling, I'm figuring out what is my question. And so I will pick a question that is very, very specific. And not like an advice question like, how should I bake this cake? But like, will I bake a good cake today? And even that's not a very good question to ask a tarot card deck. Like a question that you get a more accurate. I'm not even really into the divination stuff, quite frankly. But I do ask questions in a way that is divination seeking, to basically get my brain into a mindset to expect an answer that is helpful. So in other words, if I'm asking like, will I bake a good cake today? Only I can really decide that. The tarot deck's not going to decide whether or not I bake a good cake today. But what I am asking the tarot deck is, which is really what I'm asking myself. The tarot deck is literally just a pile of cards that has no sentience and whatever. But what I'm asking myself is, will I bake a good cake today? And then I draw 3 cards, and then each card that I draw represents a position in the spread. So the first position is my question. So basically, this is like what I'm describing to y'all is like my modification of what other people do when they do this. So the general beginner's spread is past, present, and future. So for me, I do my question, which can also be the past, my choice, which could also easily be used as the present, and my answer, which you could say is the future. So I do that, and then I look at my spread, and I basically just like lit the images, and what each card is supposed to represent sort of bounce around in my head, and it gives me sort of an idea of where internally, subconsciously, in terms of my memories, like what's just going on in my brain. Like I let it bounce around, and it kind of helps me. Oh, hold on. I just saw something I wanted to fix. Speaking about my brain, and so it helps me sort of see where I have points of reaction and reactivity. So, for instance, today I had an important interview that I had to do over the phone. And so I did a tarot spread, and I asked myself, will this interview go well? Very broad general question, probably not the best question to ask. Sort of like if you did a Google search, your answer is only as good as the question that you ask. So the better questions you have, the better answers you get. Especially if it's, you asking yourself a question, right? So I asked the question of, will my interview go well today? Or will my meeting go well today? And I drew, the spread that I drew, which this, stuff like this always like kind of weirds me out. But the spread that I drew was 3 of Swords, which is typically a card that represents betrayal, sadness, stuff like that. The 8 of Swords, another one that kind of represents betrayal. That was my choice card. Also represents being trapped, feeling like you can't move anywhere or do anything. And then the Queen of Swords, which that in itself is it's weird to me that was what I drew, because it felt like a progression. That was like my answer was the Queen of Swords. And Queen of Swords represents sternness in just getting the job done, taking out sentimentality and worry and all of the petty concerns of normal everyday life, and just being like, it's time to get the donuts made. We gotta go. We gotta do this. So I spent about 5 minutes just reflecting on it, thinking about it, and it certainly helped me in terms of thinking about, okay, well, what does my mindset need to be going into this meeting? Because I do, and it turned out being very relevant, because I actually had not that long ago had some really, really disturbing and uncomfortable experience with somebody related to my industry, that they were trying to get me to like pitch something, and this person, like, over time I just realized like was an alcoholic, and I don't understand how it took me so long to figure it out. Here's the other part: is I was sharing a room with this. I was sharing a duplex, no, apartment with this person, and they were, um, they were basically like, they were the person I was giving my rent money to, so it required me figuring this out and finding this out pretty much at the point of one day we got a letter from the Multnomah County Circuit Court saying that we were under threat of eviction for late rent. And I was like, this this person's name was Gregory. I was just like, Gregory, I gave him the rent. Didn't he pay it? Why is it? What's going on here? Lo and behold, I get a call from the property owner, and he had tried to call me previously, and I had missed the call, and I was just like, oh, whatever. And he explained to me, it was just like, Matt, I'm sorry that this is happening to you. I'm sorry that you got mixed up in this. Before you had even come into this apartment, like, he had not paid, he had already not paid a month's rent. And then I was like, so did he pay this month's rent? And he was like, no. He had paid the month that you had moved in, but he was already a month behind still. So anyway, all that situation worked out fine for me. Like, I got removed from the summons and all that stuff. Like, I was fine, but it was still stressful at the time, you know. Anyway, so I had that issue, and so today I ended up having a meeting with somebody who is in a related industry, and I was certainly having a lot of those, like, during the meeting, I was certainly having a lot of those, like, little flashbacks, because people in the entertainment industry, they have a way in which they converse and talk that's largely based on, they want to try and get somebody interested or hooked into a project. And so it turned out being very relevant for me, my tarot spread. Anyway, so that's one example of a way that you can use a tarot deck to just help kind of figure out what you subconsciously are needing in the moment and the day. Hope that helps. All right, I'm almost done with this panel here. I'm kind of surprised how fast I was able to blow through it. Okay. Now, does that mean that I use the tarot? Do I use the tarot deck all the time? No, not really. It's, if you're like somebody who is prone to second guessing themselves, or like over analyzing something, a tarot deck may not be for you. That's my takeaway from it. Or at least get to a point where you're like confident about how you feel. Okay, give me a second. If you're confident about knowing your own feelings, then yeah, get a tarot deck. It might help you. You know, it might help you go, oh yeah, okay, I can see how this might help me. If you're somebody who's prone to second guessing or getting sort of paranoid about, like, oh, what does this mean? Could this mean, this or that, you know. It's probably not a good idea to get a tarot deck. You might scare yourself, quite frankly. You might freak yourself out. But in general, you know, things that utilize intuition and like by intuition I mean like I'm not talking about being psychic. I just mean like having an intuitive sense of things. You know, like being able to read a room or applying ancient wisdom to everyday situations, things like that. What was I saying? If you're good at that kind of thing, if that's something that you feel like you're already pretty adept at, like if you like reading Sun Tzu's Art of War and you can find it omni-applicable to every given situation in your life, then maybe a tarot card deck is for you. If on the other hand, you know, you find sometimes that you're reading the stock market and the burn marks on your toast, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think a tarot card deck is what you need in the moment. At least right now. Maybe a little later. Anyway, I hope you're having a swell day. I'm going to save this real quick. Hope your whatever projects you have going on, whatever ambitions you have going on, it's all going well. That you got the wind at your back, the wind in your sails, pushing you along into the greater ocean of life. And anyway, I will see y'all again next time, and it's been fun. See you later. Bye.